Hey everybody, today is June 6, 2023, and today we're going to talk about the price of Bitcoin. We've had some major breaking news over the last 48 hours, and we're going to discuss that in this video today. Before we begin, please read this disclaimer and you can pause this video as you read it. Okay, so breaking news: the SEC has decided to sue Coinbase and Binance over the last 48 hours. Right? Yesterday they sued Binance, and today they decided to sue Coinbase, right, over exchange staking programs, right? They're basically saying that they're a unregistered exchange and broker, right? And then they've gone on to list even more assets that they deem to be securities, right? Now this is potentially a problem because that might force exchanges like Coinbase or maybe even Binance to have to remove some of these listings, but they still haven't outright said that the big two, Bitcoin and Ethereum, are securities yet, right? So right now, we're seeing a bit of a relief rally based on that, at least in the big two, right, Bitcoin and Ethereum. But still, we're not completely out of the woods yet, right? They're still being sued, and that could be potentially a problem because they're suing them as an unregistered exchange and broker. So, I mean, if Coinbase is the biggest, they're basically the largest exchange in the US, right? This is where most people onboard and get their crypto from this exchange. So if this means that they're not allowed to operate potentially, then that could be a big problem, right? But before we get into that, let's talk about the debt ceiling because that was the main narrative that we had last week, right? Going to this week. So basically, over the weekend, the debt limit bill was signed by Biden after Congress agreed to a deal. And so basically, they've avoided the US default until 2025. So now that that's out of the picture, the stock market basically rallied off of that and broke above a major resistance level, the 4,200 level that we've been basically trapped in. Let me give you the S&P. Basically been trapped in for a year, right? 42 and 3,800. We finally broke out over here. And now we're trying to go up higher to retest this next resistance level, right? The 4,300 level. But of course, next week, we have let's go back to Bitcoin really quick. Next week, we have the Fed meeting and the CPI data, right? CPI comes out next week on June 13th, and also the Fed meeting is going to be June 13th and 14th. So that's going to be the next major narrative besides the major narrative in crypto that we have. So, but those two, the CPI and the Fed meeting is going to be the major narrative for the stock market. And of course, we've said many times that Bitcoin tends to follow the stock market, especially the Nasdaq, right? Now, the problem is that Bitcoin is having its own fundamental news-driven narratives right now, right? That could really threaten the ecosystem, in my opinion, right? Binance just got sued yesterday for similar reasons, but they've gone after CZ, which is the founder, right? But they haven't gone after Brian Armstrong, who's the CEO of Coinbase, because I think that they accused Binance of basically having their own accounts or something, like trading for their own benefits independently of his exchange, right? And having many conflicts of interest between different businesses that do business with Binance that are supposedly owned by CZ, right? So that's one thing that makes the suit against Binance worse than this Coinbase. It seems like Coinbase is being just targeted for being unregistered exchange broker and listing assets that are deemed securities, at least securities now, by the SEC, right? But still, the lawsuit from the SEC to Coinbase is still bad because Coinbase is basically the #1 exchange for people in the U.S. So if the U.S. market, if they're forced to, like, worst case scenario, they're forced to, like, close down or something because they're unregistered, then I mean, that's gonna be really bad for adoption in the U.S. So that's what I'm worried about right now. But it seems like the crypto market is rallying. I'm really not. It was down bad on this news before, but my guess is probably because the big two, Bitcoin and Ethereum, aren't listed as securities in this. So those two are doing quite well, while the other altcoins might not be doing as well, right? Because they might potentially get delisted. You know, if the SEC says you can't list these assets, these cryptocurrencies, because they're securities, Coinbase might have to remove them. So that could be a problem if you do have some altcoins that are deemed by the SEC to be securities. But right now, Bitcoin and Ethereum are officially not deemed as securities by the SEC. So they might be seeing a counter rally against that, or a rally against that news, as people might be moving from their altcoins into these two bigger, perhaps even more safer assets, right? But I think the key to watch is to see the inflow and outflow of Bitcoin on these exchanges, right? Right now, we've seen a huge outflow of Bitcoin over the last 24 hours since Binance news was announced, right? I mean, people are taking their Bitcoin off the exchange just in case something happens to the exchange. But they may have to get shut down or something. Worst case scenario, right? Not saying that's going to happen, but like worst case scenario, people are scared to hold their crypto assets on centralized exchanges right now. Now, of course, the Coinbase news of the SEC suing Coinbase was just announced a couple hours ago. So we're going to have to wait until tomorrow to see whether the 24-hour change is just as bad or worse than Binance. Are people going to be scared to hold their cryptocurrencies on Coinbase, another centralized exchange, or are they potentially going to wait and see if the SEC is going to take a further action, right? But the main gist of it is that things aren't looking too good. There's a lot of rocky fundamental news right now in the crypto space, but at the same time, we've been looking at this price action. It hasn't been looking very good for the last few weeks, right? I've said multiple times how I'm looking for 25,000, right? Look, I'm looking for 25,000, still waiting for 25,000, retest 25,000. This was back in May, right? 25,000, like early May. I've just been looking for 25,000, right? The reason is the price action hasn't been looking too hot, right? We're basically making lower highs, right, and lower lows. And usually when that happens, we give the benefit of doubt to the bears that this will continue down lower. And of course, the SEC news today isn't really great news either. And even though we've been having a bounce since the Coinbase news happened a couple hours ago, we're still making lower highs and lower lows, right? This could be just a relief rally. Maybe a lot of people shorted here and got short squeezed. But until we start taking out like 27 or 28,000, something like this, right? Building a base. We still have to give benefit of the doubt to the bears that this could continue down lower, right? And maybe even to 24,000. Maybe I'm being too conservative. Maybe it'll go below 25,000 to 24,000, especially with this news. When I made this prediction of 25,000, I was not expecting the SEC to sue Coinbase and Binance, right? But here it is, and we have to adapt to the news, right? But overall, this could be a potentially good opportunity if Coinbase is able to beat the SEC, right? Because right now, you look at the sentiment, it's getting into fear territory. We were in greed and neutral over the last couple of sessions, but there's still quite a ways to go down. But like I said, the SEC this is not an automatic win for the SEC, right? Even though they're charging Coinbase, suing Coinbase for operating as an unregistered securities exchange, broker, clearing agency, right? Which is not great, right? But still, this could be a potentially good buying opportunity if we see like a flash crash, right? I'm not saying that you should buy now. Obviously, it's a lot more risky now that the SEC is involved, right? But potentially good buying opportunity if there's a lot, because these sort of like big volatile movements when there's fear can be good buying opportunities. So that's what I'm keeping my eye out for. Again, not financial advice, not saying you have to buy or you should buy. You gotta do your own research, and based on your own risk tolerance, maybe you will take a trade or not. But yeah, you gotta make your own decision, right? I'm not saying you have to buy here, but this is just something I'm looking at, and potentially could be a good buying opportunity if the opportunity presents itself, right? But yeah, just be careful right now because this is just the beginning, right? This is just today, and we don't know how this is going to develop going forward. This could be a long draw-out lawsuit, or perhaps the SEC will expand their lawsuit, include more securities. Will they include Ethereum? I don't think they're going to include Bitcoin. I think that they've classified it as a commodity, but still, there is a chance that they could. I don't know. It's a very rare chance that they could. So you just want to keep your eyes out for that and see how the SEC expands going forward. Because I guarantee they're probably going to expand, and especially as this lawsuit, if it goes to court, like this is just gonna get pretty ugly. But Coinbase, they have a lot of money, they have good lawyers, so I don't think it's gonna be necessarily an easy fight for the SEC. But like I said, this is just the beginning. There's going to be more information that comes out, and that's going to affect the price going forward, and we'll definitely update you. But for now, I am still giving the benefit of the doubt to the bears. We're still making lower highs and lower lows. There's still a lot of selling pressure on exchanges. So until I see bottom signs happening, right, I still expect this to go down lower to 25, even to 24,000, but we'll see, right? I've said that 25 could be strong support level, right? We've had this base of support where we tested this as resistance multiple times, right? And at the same time, 30,000, which is this blue line here, this Fibonacci support level, resistance level, is also a strong resistance level because that acted as support during our bull market in 2021. But then we broke that in 2022. And so now we're coming up to try to break above 30,000 again, but we're facing strong resistance, right? because what was once support, when that's broken, it becomes strong resistance. So I don't think that coming up to 30,000 is going to be an easy fight to break through at the same time. So I do think that the benefit of the doubt is that we've come down lower to at least 24, 25. But I do think 24, 25 will be a strong base, at least for now, right? Unless the SEC comes out with even worse news and they decide to charge even more exchanges, or they try to go deeper into Coinbase and expand their securities list to include more cryptocurrencies, right? And that might force Coinbase to delist some of their some of their cryptocurrencies that are deemed securities, because they want to be compliant, right? And so that's going to hit Coinbase stock as well, because a lot of their revenue comes from listing these altcoins and altcoin trading, right? Commissions, the fees, trading fees, basically, and from their staking program, right? If they have to remove their staking program, then right, staking as a service, that can also be another gut in their revenue income. So yeah, just things to watch out for. This right now is a very in my opinion, worrying time, I think, when it comes to like exchanges and centralized exchanges and regulation, right? You want to keep your eyes open and see what the SEC and the government's going to do, because that could affect the price of all the cryptocurrencies that you trade, especially if you're trading on leverage. You might see wild swings overnight into reaction. And this is just the beginning, right? This is the last 48 hours, Coinbase and Binance, right? And these are the two biggest exchanges in the world that the SEC is going after. And the SEC is very powerful, right? So just a summary, I do think Bitcoin will probably come down, as I've been expecting and predicting, to at least 25, maybe even 24,000, depending on how bad the SEC actions against Binance and Coinbase gets. But we definitely need to look and see if this can act as support, 24 or 25,000. And we'll definitely update you going forward as more information comes out in the upcoming weeks. Thank you for watching this video. Please like this video, leave a comment below, and subscribe for updates. I appreciate all your support. Thank you again, and have a great day.